bridal. Does it necessarily have to be a gown? Is a bridal garment only restricted to gowns, or can we have different designs, not necessarily gowns, that we can still call bridal garment? So from what we have, please can you help me to project? Thank you. Okay, from what we have projected on the screen, we can see that a bridal garment is a special garment worn by a bride during a ceremony, and it is determined by the color, the style, the ceremonial importance of the gown, which is dependent on the religion and the culture of the bride. So when we talk about the color, there are some religions, there are some tribes that actually have a peculiar color that they go for when their girls want to get married. For example, a bridal gown was not originally the white color, even though it was a representation of purity, and a lot of people seem to see the white color as saying the girl child or the lady who's about to get married is giving herself to a husband in a pure and wholesome way. Most brides didn't go all out for a white bridal gown. In the 1700s, 1800s, even before that, brides were not wearing white. It's eventually evolved when Queen Victoria decided to bring forth the lace that was made by one of the fashion empires in England then, in the 1820s. And because she is, because of her stand as a royal personality, it went viral because newspapers, cameras were everywhere, and it was being publicized as the princess wearing a white garment on her wedding day. So people, especially elites at that time, decided to go for that color, not because it was what has always been. No, the original color, in fact, of a bridal garment was red. That was back in the 1700s and even before then. It was red. So it was Queen Victoria that eventually brought forth that color white, because she used it on her own wedding day. And people who wanted to associate themselves with royalty and with her personality decided to use that color on their own wedding too. And it started with the high class, and later it became something everybody is going for today. So if you are choosing your color for your wedding dress today, know why. It shouldn't just be because you've always seen people wear white. Why are you wearing white? You can decide to do your own thing your own way. You can decide to wear purple. Yeah, I've seen a bride that was wearing black on her wedding day, though that's quite bold. But then it's just trying to wake up in us the fact that we can decide to stand out, you can decide to do what you want. You don't have to restrict yourself to what has always been to the status quo. You can decide to switch up things in your own way. So that's going into how the white bridal garment came into being. Let's take ourselves or walk ourselves down memory lane a bit. When we talk about wedding gowns, it has always been what a bride wears on her wedding day. So now, when we talk about wedding gown styles or designs, it has not always been what we are used to today. It evolved over time. Like, when we talk about the 1920s, okay, it's already projected. In the 1920s, for example, wedding gowns were more sophisticated, and then people were going for more creative designs and freer designs, not the body-hugging designs. They were going for more freer designs and very creative designs. But when you go down to the 1930s, people switched up a little and started using silk as bridal fabric. And back then, silk used to be something that was available only to the elites. So if you're using silk back then, it was showing a class that you belong to. So it was something that you using that fabric alone was standing out your own wedding as not just the regular. So from the 1920s going into the 1930s and the 1940s, people started going for the high-necked version of bridal designs, and people started working with sleeves, different type of sleeves, but mostly long sleeves, because way back then people were more conservative than we are right now. So people brides were going more for long sleeve and high neck design. But then in the 1950s, the ball gowns came, and people were flowing everywhere with ball gowns, and most of the time the upper part will have a corseted top, and then the lower part will be this full and flowing ball gown. So they did more of the cinching up. You have a smaller upper part, and then the attention is being focused on the lower part, which is always made to be as full as possible to get that exaggerated effect on the ball. But then by the 1960s, people were ditching that. I don't want to be carrying a whole load on me because I want to wear a wedding dress. Ball gowns can really make you, they can make the physique look big, and they can actually restrict creativity. So by the 1950s, people were already going for, by the 1960s, they were going for shorter dresses, and that was when people started experimenting with sleeves. Because if the attention is being drawn away from the ball, which is the lower part, then something else needs to catch the attention of people. Oh, this is the wedding day, this is my wedding day, I need to stand out. When people see the picture, they need to see that something is going on here. So if they are ditching that ball gown effect, then something else needs to stand in place. So people started working and experimenting with sleeves. So that was when the leg of mutton sleeves became, it was everywhere. I don't know how many of us are familiar with the leg of button sleeves, I'm sure the advanced class will know what I'm talking about. But for the lower classes, the newbies, the freshers that have not done sleeve variation, by the time you go into sleeve variation, you'll see and you'll be able to work on it. It's actually a creative sleeve that has an exaggerated upper part, and then it slims down to the wrist level. So after the 1960s, in the 1970s, people were going more into sleeves, and sleeves became the focus, taking the attention away even from the body. Sleeves were what people were really paying attention to. And then in the 1980s, the focus came back to the body, and people started wearing more slimmer versions of wedding dresses. And then that was when tubes and strapless came into vogue. From there, the 90s, where the sleeves came back again, the 2000s, the A-line, and then sleeves came back, and then as it is now, anything goes. So far, it flatters your shape. If you want to focus on the sleeve, if you want the attention to be on the sleeve, it's fine, it's your day. If you want it to be on the design of the body of the design on the body of the clothes itself, it's fine. So people are experimenting more these days with both the sleeve, fabrics to use, colors, and what have you. Because now people want to make a statement even more than it was back then. Because the competition is even more now. If you are not careful, even as a bride, your guest is going to be looking more beautiful than you. So you have to go all out and pay attention to how you want to look on that day. And we as fashionistas, let me say, when our clients come, you know that it has to be all about her on that day. So you need to look at what is going to work for her to make her stand out, to make her know that, yes, I'm the one owning this day. So someone I'm inviting to my day should not be taking the shine from me on that day. So I've talked briefly about why brides wear white, and here we can see other colors that brides actually can work with aside from white. It doesn't have to be white, because even the purity that we are trying to portray is not being played up as it used to be back then. So people are ditching white to go for other colors. So you can as well experiment if you are bold enough, because it also has to do with you being able to carry, or the client who is coming to you being able to carry what she wants to wear. If you are going to be using a rose gold, for example, or a bolder color like purple on the wedding day, the person must be ready to withstand the stares that will come with it. They must be bold and courageous enough to carry that outfit. If not, it must sit well enough. If not, it's just going to come back out as, what kind of color is this? But if it is looking and coming out well, it sets a trend, probably for the next decade or so. Imagine if someone like Rihanna gets married today and she decides to use maybe orange. I tell you, after today, you see brides that will start using that color, because she is already setting the trend. So it is not about what has always been, it is about how you want your own day to look and what you're comfortable with on that day, what you want to settle down with, and how you are able to carry it to make it look good enough to be something that others want to follow suit with. So, aside from that, one other important thing we need to note, either as the bride or as the person who is dressing up a bride, is the figure of the bride. And this is where a lot of people actually make the wrong choice, because if you don't work with the figure of your bride, no matter how much you spend on the fabric or how good it looks on the mannequin, if the bride eventually wears it, it's not going to bring out all the work if it is not flattering the bride's shape. So we'll be briefly talking about 4 types of shapes, 4 types of bridal shapes. This is just a generalization, or we're just trying to categorize it into these 4 shapes. It goes broader than that. But with these 4 shapes, you can have an idea of what anybody who walks in, who wants to make a bridal garment, where such a person can fall into. So the first shape is the hourglass. And how many of us know what we call the hourglass shape? I think all of us should actually know that. Do we have someone here who we can call an hourglass? Someone that has an hourglass shape. So we can just ask the person to come out so we can see. Where is she? Who is Jumoke? Jumoke, stand up now. Let's see if you can be. Chidebiri, I don't understand. Okay, can someone just tell us, when we say someone has an hourglass figure, what do we mean? Can someone just stand up and explain? Okay, so Chamaka. Okay, Amaka.
Thank you very much. When you say someone has an hourglass shape, it means that their bust and their hips are proportional, and while the waist is smaller.
Flat tummy.
That's the key word there is proportional.
Yes.
That's the key word, because the bust and the hips are having almost the same size. Hence, the waist is smaller. So because it makes the bust being almost the same as the hips, it naturally makes the waist look smaller, and the person is having this figure 8 that is looking perfect. So one very striking thing about the hourglass figure is the smaller waist. The waist is being emphasized as being smaller. So if someone like this, if you have a client that is having this kind of figure, you should actually not be encouraging such a person to make a ball dress, because it would only make the person look bigger. The person has a relatively bigger bust, and then is relatively big on the hips. So making a ball dress that is having added fullness from the waist it won't emphasize the smallness of the waist. It will only make the person look bigger. So you encourage such a person to go for designs like mermaid or trumpet that will emphasize that figure, that will bring it out and flatter that shape, so that on that day she's going to look spectacular and the figure is going to come out. So you have to work with the figure of the individual and understand that person's figure before you encourage, because some people can actually come with designs, and then you look at the person and you look at the design, you should be able to understand that no, and advise accordingly. Nobody wants to look funny on their day. So we need to understand body shapes. So another shape we have is the pear shape. The pear shape. How does the pear shape look? Edima, you're saying something. Let's hear you.
I said the person that just finished up has a pear shape.
Oh, really? Okay, Amaka. Can you stand up? So, are we agreeing that this is a pear shape? What is a pear shape? Can someone tell us? When we say someone has a pear shape, everybody is talking at once. Andrea.
Pear shape is whereas where the body is smaller upwards and bigger down.
Okay, so are we agreeing with that? Someone who has a pear shape, do we know? We are familiar with what a pear looks like. When you have an idea of what a pear looks like, you know what the pear shape actually looks like. So the person has a smaller bust, a small waist, but then the person is bigger on the hips. So it's similar to the hourglass shape. It's just that the person is having a smaller bust. So for someone like this too, it would be silly to encourage such a person to go for a ball dress. So if you are having a client that is having that kind of shape, the best is just to go for a trumpet or a mermaid, because it brings out, they can, it's not as if they can't work with any shape, any design, because these two figures actually have the best, will I say, the best opportunity now. They can get away with a lot of designs because of their physique. They can wear literally anything and it fits them because of their physique. But then you shouldn't emphasize, draw more attention to, or add more fullness, let me put it that way. You shouldn't have designs that is adding more fullness to the lower part, like the ball gown, because it will take away from the natural assets that they have. And what you want to do is to flatter the design, to flatter the shape of your client on that day. So someone like, I think she has a pear shape actually. It is better you give someone like that, you encourage someone like that to go for a trumpet or a mermaid, or any other design can actually work fine. A-line can work fine too. But the no-no is the ball gown. Not that it won't look good, but then it won't flatter the way other designs will flatter. There are a lot of designs they can wear that they will look good on, but not like the ball gown. So another shape we have is a triangular shape. Triangular shape. And when we say the triangular shape, what do you think it means? Triangular shape. Who is talking? Now I can see some people drawing the shape of a triangle. The triangular shape is actually having an inverted triangle shape. That such individuals, they have an inverted triangular shape. So can you, let's hear you. So the person is going to be having a broader chest. The upper part of the body is going to be bigger, but then it is going to start getting smaller to the waist and the hips. So the hip, in proportion to the chest, is smaller. So the person is having this kind of V shape. And there's nothing an individual can do about the shape he's presenting with. But you, who is styling the person, must know what will work best for such a person. So for people like that, you have to encourage such people not to go for tight clothes or tight designs. Like we've been encouraging the last people with the last two figures to go for mermaid, to go for trumpet, A-line. But someone with a triangular design, the inverted triangular design, is not going to look good on the person, because it's just going to emphasize that triangular shape. So for someone like that, you can actually encourage people like that to go for ball dresses, because it tends to balance the upper part and the lower part. So it draws attention away from the broadness of the chest. And then the kind of necklines that you work with for the person too should be a neckline that, something like a V neckline, because it's going to counter the inverted shape of that person, the natural inverted triangle that person has. If you're having a V neckline, it might be plunging, it might be deep, it might be an illusion neckline that is having a V outlook, but it would kind of counter that natural inverted triangular shape that person has, and it will eventually present with a more flattering outcome. And then the last shape we'll be looking at is the rectangle shape. Someone is saying ruler. That's unfair. So we actually have people who have this kind of rectangular shape, and most of the time people like this are quite tall. Their body proportion is almost the same. The bust, the waist, the hips is almost the same. So for people like this, the A-line silhouette is actually going to look better on them. And then they can also work with ball gowns, and we'll actually be looking at types of gowns as this progresses. So I would like to invite the second person that would continue from here, Ms. Bimi. So please welcome her.
Thank you, Ms. Debola. I hope you all enjoyed the last section. Can we give Ms. Debola a round of applause? Okay, now we are moving to another section of the bridal masterclass, which we are starting with types of bridal designs and necklines. I'm very sure that you're very conversant with bridal designs and the necklines. Speaking to professionals at the moment. Yeah. So I would like someone to tell me the designs you have in your head. When it comes to bridal, there are so many things flying in your head. So just tell me one name, one dress that you think you can rock very well. So types of designs. Should I start pointing out to professional designers? Really? Okay. So do we have anybody?
The gowns or the necklines?
Designs, bridal designs. Or bridal kind of dresses. Ball gown, thank you. Mermaid. Strapless. Shirt dress. A-line, trumpet.
Piano.
Which other one do we have? There are plenty. Oh, not for your wedding dress. Which one is that? The off-shoulder and jacket, a bolero and a tube. I really don't understand what you're talking about. Maybe when I see the picture, I'll be able to give you more illustration on it. Okay, without further ado, we move on to the ball gown. Ms. Debola has explained thoroughly what we understand by our body shape. And if you know your body shape, you have peace. When you know your body shape, you are not moved by any other person's body shape, because you're actually unique the way you are, and nobody can be you. Love you for you. So the ball gown, once you have a ball gown, once you understand your shape, so you know the kind of gown you need to wear. The ball gown, it looks like a ballerina stuff. After the waist, you have the fullness, and it keeps flowing, keeps getting bigger, fuller, fuller, fuller. Can we have a picture, please? Thank you. No.
Look at it.
Thank you. So this is a ball gown. I can see our expressions. We are loving it, right? So the shape that is going to rock this, can we just give me a shape that can rock this very well? Triangular shape, a rectangular shape. Everybody can actually rock this. One house, please. But it depends. One house. So that is why she made mention of something. When Ms. Debola was talking, she said everything has changed. It depends on how you want your wedding gown to be, or what you already envisioned in your head. I can rock this. I'm a pear shape. I can rock this. A rectangular person can rock this. But I would advise a figure 8 not to rock this, because you need to show us your shape. You need to see the glory. You understand? So this is a ball gown with a band on the neck, which we call what?
Band.
High neck. High neck. So we move to the mermaid gown. Man-made gown. Okay, Mr. The one before this. Thank you. The man-made gown is this. But there's a slight difference between man-made and trumpet gown. Do we know the difference? Okay, let me tell you the difference for those that don't know. If you check out your man-made dress, it is sometimes on the knee or below the knee with few inches. But if you check your trumpet gown, it is always 10 centimeter after your hip depth, or 12 centimeter. Not exactly on the knee and not below the knee. The fullness can start 10 centimeter or 12 centimeter after your hip depth for the trumpet gown. Then for the man-made gown, on your knee, the fullness can start. And up below the knee, few inches above below the knee, the fullness can start. It depends. And you'll see some trumpet gown. Okay, what we have here is straight. I'm talking about the knee design now. Some dresses, you will see them, and some mermaid dresses, some trumpet dresses. On the knee, or on that joint knee, you will see some have a curve. I don't know if there's a picture that can represent that for me here. Instead of having the normal flat joining, that's the fullness and the knee gown length. Some will be like this, like a curve. It's just different from the usual. And we always encourage you guys not to do the norms. Fashion is creativity on its own. So you don't get to follow the norms, just do something outside the box to carve a niche for yourself. And we'll move to the strapless gown. The strapless gown can also be known as tube. We have tube dresses. Mr. Please can you show me a picture? Thank you. This is a tube dress. We can all see it. A strapless dress. And this is always good for the pear shape, for the hourglass, the figure 8 people. It shows that endowed body that you have, God-given shape that you have. And don't hide it.
Is there an age of padding?
My dear, you can choose to pad. It's not a crime. It's just body enhancement, so it's no big deal. So you have it, you still want to pad it. Please go ahead and pad it. It's allowed. So this is a 2-gown or a strapless gown. And we have the shaped dress. I don't know if there's a picture that is representing the shaped dress, but let me give you a picture explanation of it. A shaped dress can also be shaped, S-H-E-A-T-H, or column dress. There are some shaped dresses that you see that it will just show you the shape of the person with just little flare. They call it fit to flare. With just little flare, and you can as well attach a cape from here to here, the fullness. You can as well attach a full skirt, like a ballerina kind of skirt. You can attach it around the waist. Meanwhile, all those kind of dresses, we call them versatile dresses or multi-purpose dresses, whereby you can rock one piece in different ways. That's the shape dress. It comes with creativity. And sometimes you just have this handkerchief kind of cape attached to this place. Depends on what you want, what's on your mind. And we'll move to the A-line dress. I think we have it. But I'm very sure that you already know the A-line dress. The A-line dress, sometimes some can start from here and go. Sometimes one from the knee below and goes A. And depends on how full you want it to be. How wide you want the 360 to be. Some can be 720. Depends on what you want per time. And then we'll move to the cape dress. If you check out some bridal dresses nowadays in the 21st century, you see that there are some gowns that right from the shoulder you have a long cape attached to your gown. Sometimes the cape is inserted into the shoulder, so you don't even know the difference between the back, where the back is and where the cape is. You just see something flowing. That is that cape dress. And then we have different kinds of cape dresses. As we move on in our practical classes, we get to see more pictures, more designs. And can I tell you this? You can actually create your designs. You can pick this from here, you can pick that from there, and join it together to make a piece. Like I said, you don't do the norms. You go outside the box. And we have the backless. We have some backless dresses. Please, can you slide to the pictures? Okay, we don't have it here, but let me explain to you. You see more in the practical classes. The backless dress. You see some wedding dresses that they only have an illusion net here, and the back is open down to the bone. Have you seen it before? And then some, it is opened, but they put illusion nets. And at the back of the illusion net, we have buttons attached to the loops, down to the bone, to where the zipper is stopping. So depending on how you want your bag to look, depending on how it's in your head or how you've envisioned it. So you can totally remove the net, you can totally remove the fabric, you can totally remove it, and you just have this thin drop at the back here, depending on how you want to review your back. It's all creativity. And we have the monostrap gown. Thank you. Listen. Thank you, Mr. So the monostrap gown is always an asymmetric dress. a one-sided kind of hand dress, which is this one. You can rock it anywhere. It goes a longer way because that day we've come to actually see you and not you coming to see us.
Yes.
So it's about you. And then we'll move to yoke. There are some wedding dresses that you will see. It's a tube. Can you please up? Thank you. This is fine. This is looking like what I want to explain. So you see some dresses, they have yoke. It can be bustier at this point. It can be tube. It can be corset at this point. But you see an extension afterwards. You see an extension of the lace or the illusion net that is embellished or embroidered on the net. Do you understand? So this is called yoke. Anything that extends after the tube or the strapless to hold your neck or turtleneck. Yoke dresses. We'll move to halter neck. Okay, I don't know if we have a picture here, but I know we all know halter neck. It comes like this to your neck. Then there's a band that holds the front and the back together to have a loop at the back. So it depends on how you now want the down part to be, either the ballerina kind of thing, or the hairline, or the trumpet, or the mermaid. And then we have off shoulder. This is a perfect look of off shoulder. This is a perfect picture for the off shoulder. You have the off shoulder. The off shoulder can be very off, can just stay right on the shoulder here. Like this one is a little bit off, and some it can really be off. So in the practical class, we try to see all of these things, how it works and how it goes. And then we move to the next one, which is types of bridal train. We all know in the wedding, the way it is now, once you see the bride, you see the trains. But that's going to be in the practical class. But we want to talk about the kind of trains when it comes to fabric, when it comes to dresses. It said a train is an extra length of fabric that extends from the back of your wedding dress and trails behind you as you walk. It may be part of your skirt, it could be a detachable piece or overlay that connects to your waist. Or it could be a watchel style which attaches at the shoulder like a cape. I think I would like to talk about the watchel style first before dissecting the rest. If you look, there's a picture, thank you. This is the watchel style. It is attached from the shoulder, then down to the floor length, and you can as well extend it, just so it tells a story. Watchel, W-A-T-T-E-A-U, watchel.
Like wedding party.
The watchel starts from the shoulder. And when we are talking about train, the train can come from the waist, can extend from any part of your body, even from the shoulder or from the back, depending on where you want your train to come from. Somebody like me, I would like my train to come from my shoulder, and it tells a story even when I'm long gone. That's a long cathedral train. That's my person. It depends on who you are and how you want it. And some people just tell you that I'm a minimalist bride. Just give me something simple. Sorry, your questions will be asked afterwards. So just reserve your questions, and then after our sessions, then we'll go back to the question and answer session. So depending on how you want it, and we have some train that they start from the waist and they stop right here, and some on the floor length. We have different types to this. If you look at the picture, we have types of train that we have. We have the brush or sweep train. The brush or sweep train is always 6 inches after your floor length gown. Then the next one we have is the cut train. It is always between 6 to 12 inches after your floor length gown measurement. 6 to 12 inches longer than your waist to floor length measurement. Then the next one is chapel. It is always between 12 inches to 22 inches. Then the next one is semi-cathedral. The semi-cathedral is always between 22 to 34 inches after your floor length measurement. Then the main one is cathedral. I think that is the common one we see. Like when the bride wants to go extra miles, you see cathedral mostly, which is always between 34 to 46 inches after your floor length measurement. Then we have the royal or the monarch. The royal is always royal. You know, the royal, they don't do it in a small way. So it's always between the inches of 46 and above. If you like, take it to 100, take it to 150. So far you can still coordinate yourself with the length of the tray. So be it. We're all going to dance after the bride. That's the most important thing. And we move to veil and veil length. I'm very sure that we all know the veil when it comes to a wedding gown. We've all seen the veil. We've all seen different types of veil. I don't know if you can give me a name, just one. Types of veil that you know. Waist veil, okay.
Chapel.
Oh, you're seeing it, so there's no point. Okay, so this is it. We say veil is a romantic addition to any wedding dress. It's usually a piece of tulle fabric that complements the dress, but it does not have to be. That is to say, according to how you want the wedding dress or wedding veil to be. It is not mandatory, it is not compulsory you have the veil on your head. If you choose to have it, so be it. And if you don't want to have it, your gown is still very beautiful without the veil. But we use the word romantic. Do you know why we use the word romantic? Because in a wedding program, when it gets to that point that the reverend tells you to unveil the bride, let's see if it's what you actually opted for that you were giving to. And that part seems to be romantic, that the guy would, sometimes we see someone on Instagram post where the guy is dramatic about it, he goes back and he does all kind of things. So I think that's the fun of the wedding. That's the fun at weddings. So that's why we said it's optional. But it's always beautiful when it's added to the dresses. It gives you this chic and classic look. So we have different types. The practical part of this will be done in the class. So do not stress your head as to how do we cut it, how do we go about it. No. Let's just explain the theory part to you. Then when it gets to the practical class, you tend to see all of this practically. Okay, so we have the fly away train. Veil, thank you. I know you are wondering fly away. And it's always 36 inches from the crown. From here, measure 36 inches. And it stops somewhere around here. The reason why it is called fly away is because definitely once it is here, breeze can fly it anywhere it wants to. So it doesn't stay put like when it is long, when it's on the waist, or when it's at the cathedral level. Do you understand? So it's always 36 inches from the crown. Then the next one is shoulder, which is from the crown, it is always 45 inches. So from here to the 45 inches, which is called the shoulder veil. Then we have the next one, waist veil, which is always 54 inches from the crown.
cm or inches?
Inches, sorry. Inches. 54 inches from the crown. And we have the hip veil. The hip veil, from the crown to your 72 inches, you have the hip veil, which stops somewhere around the hip depth. 72 inches. And we have the knee veil, which is 82 inches from your crown. Which is 82 inches from your crown. And then the next one we have is the floor veil. The floor veil is 98 inches from the crown. What did you say?
Based on how tall.
Depending on how tall, but I think this is basic. Then in the process of you cutting, then you'll be able to minus and plus some things. We give basic, then you use your intuition to figure some things out in the process. Then we have the chapel veil. The chapel veil is always 183 from the crown to 183 inches. We have the church veil, which is 126 inches from the crown to that length of 126. The chapel is 183 inches.
So how is the church?
How is the church now?
It's the name, the tithes, not compulsorily numerically. The chapel is 183 and church is 126. So it wasn't arranged numerically, it is just the types we want you to know. So cathedral we have 144. 144 inches from the crown to the length of 144 inches. And we have royal, like we usually say, the royal don't do the norms. They go outside the box to impress the masses, which is 188 inches. Now, let me bring this to you. We have different types of veil. And if you check out the pictures on Instagram, on Pinterest, you see that some veils are embellished, some veils are just plain. Why is that? It depends on what you want. If your dress, the pieces of your lace, if it's too, I don't want to use the word dramatic, but if it's too, if it has a lot of designs, it's advisable for you to go for a plain veil. When your lace is already speaking class, just go for the normal one, normal plain veil. And the interesting thing about this thing is that it allows you to pick the texture of the fabric that you want. I mean the net. You get to pick the texture of the net that you want. Trust me, don't go for these, when you put the net on your skin, it should be friendly to the skin. Not the one that once it touches your skin, then your body starts itching you. So try and understand your body type. Try and feel the fabric against your skin and see the one that matches your skin and rock it. And if you know that your dress is so simple, like it's just a plain brocade fabric, a plain silk fabric, you can choose to be dramatic about your veil. You can tack it, put trimmings, put that, just to give it a spark so that the dress can speak volume when you come in. And I would like to end with this. When it comes to your wedding dress, bear in mind that we all gather to come see you and not you checking out on us. So if you're planning for your wedding, please, our advice, go all out if you can. Look good for yourself, because you can't tell the story twice. You can only tell that story. Let me put it this way, you can't repeat that same story, that same scene twice. but you can tell your stories as long as you want because it doesn't leave the head. You keep telling, I can remember my wedding day. The lush, the silk, the classiness, the cheapness, and that. So if you're planning for your wedding, our advice, please go all out. Know your shape and have peace. Thank you, and God bless you.
Wait.
Sorry, my bad. I would like to introduce my fellow facilitator. I call him Mr. Wale. Please can we put our hands together for Mr. Daniel.
Alright, thank you very much. A round of applause for Miss Bailey. Okay, now, so we'll move on to the next session, which is the bridal fabrics. And I'm sure you can not just make your wedding dress very exciting for people to watch you on that day without having a unique fabric, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, now, so in order to make this very lively, I want some people to mention some fabrics which you are familiar with, that you've seen people use for their bridal dresses. Anyone, please? Sorry, I don't want chorus answers. Please just raise up your hand. Alright. Chiffon, yes. Organza, lace, silk, velvet, Mikado. Okay. Who else? Do I have anyone? Alright, so very well. We have organza, we have chiffon, we have two fabrics. That's the two nets. Hello, decorum, please. We have two nets. We have lace, we have satin, we have crepe, we have silk, we have duchess satin, we have dupioni fabric, we have velvet, we have chaton, right? But are you aware that you can actually create your own fabric? Yes, you can actually create your own personal fabric. That when people see you, they wonder, where is this fabric from? They don't know the secret behind your fabric. Right? So you can create your fabric yourself. There is something we call a tambo stitches, whereby you make your own fabric with an embroidery. You can make your fabric with appliques. You can make your fabric with embellishing it. Right? So now the uniqueness of your dresses is how creative you can be in working with your fabrics. How unique your dress could actually come out is for you to work more with your fabrics. Don't forget that the fabric you use as well relates with the type of figure you have, which my fellow colleagues have taught you about the different shapes, right? The fabric you use also relates to the result you have on your design. So if you have a wow idea, right? You've created your pattern, and you don't have a very good fabric to bring out the outcome of that design, everything becomes waste. So now when making your design and creating what you actually want your design to actually be, you have to be very conscious about your fabric selections. Alright? So now, we move on to the materials used in achieving your wedding dresses. Can I have it displayed, please? So now we talked about the appliques. And I'm sure we all know what an applique is called. Right? It's actually a piece which is cut out, placed on a form. It's a decorative piece whereby you cut out. For instance, you have lace edges. You cut out the lace edges. By the time you start working with these lace edges on your dress, people wonder, what type of fabric is this? We've not seen it before. They've forgotten that it's from a cut out lace edge. Alright, so that is applique. We talk about the petticoat. Does anyone have an idea what a petticoat is called? Yes. Okay, so what is it? Okay, yes. Now it is a skirt worn as an underlay. You see a wonderful ball dress. You'll be wondering, why is it so flowing and so big?